Okay, but this movie?
This episode contains a trigger warning for suicidal ideations. Hello, welcome back to another week of Okay, but this movie. So this time I'm going first. The true MVP.
Whoa!
Fighting
Where'd
words?
that come from? Whoa!
I don't know. I've been holding on to it for 4 weeks now.
Right,
Someone had to tell you.
A bold choice. We'll talk about it later on our next podcast.
Meet me in the parking lot later.
Yeah, shit. Yeah, I will.
So my movie this week is The Virgin Suicides.
Good segue. Good segue. Dang. Yeah, that's
Thank
a
you.
segue.
It came out in 2000, and it was directed and written by Sofia Coppola, who is the daughter of Francis Ford Coppola. To continue our Coppola month or theme or whatever it is, time. It was her
collection
directorial debut, and she was 27 at the time.
Oh, wow.
So it got 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was based on a 1993 book by Jeffrey. Oh my god, I tried. It was like Eugenides or something. Eugenides.
Coming for you now.
Try not to. Anyways, it originally aired at the Cannes Film Festival in 1999. Actually, there was someone already slated to write the script for The Virgin Suicides, and Sofia Coppola was like, oh crap, I wanted to write it, and then so she's just like, I'm gonna write it myself anyway. So she just did it as a side project, and
let's see who's they pick.
and she was actually trying to get the rights. Like, she was just asking her dad, because her dad has some pull obviously after The Godfather and everything, that trying to get the book rights and all of the rights to it. And he couldn't do it because someone else already had it for the rights to the movie. And then so the studio looked over the other person's, and they're just like, we don't like this. And they did Sophia's, and they're just like, this is like one of the best scripts. So they picked hers instead.
Oh.
Which worked out in the long run, because apparently it's a classic. And I'm telling you, during the pandemic, a lot of good stuff happened, because there was another group meetup after 20 years, and they were all talking about it. Yeah, it was everyone was there except for, I think, one. No, all the sisters were there. The parents weren't there though. Like Kathleen Turner and James Woods wasn't there. But all the sisters were there, and Josh Hartnett was there, and Sofia Coppola was there, and they were all just talking about it, and they're just like, yeah, it was good times, and it was such a unique experience, and they did all of their filming on location. It wasn't staged at all, and they said that was really comforting to them, and it brought some realism to it.
Oh yeah.
But man, this movie is it's a heavy hitter for sure. So I don't even know where to start with it, because there's just so much that goes into it. So
start at the beginning. Isn't that a classic? Where do I start? The beginning.
Okay, well, the very, very beginning of the movie is
as we open.
It's supposed to be about these 5 boys, or just a group of boys, and it's from their perspective, and it's in the future, and they're the whole movie is supposed to be set in a memory, how they remember the events and how they viewed the girls. And these girls they get obsessed with is the Lisbon sisters, who live across the street from one of the boys. And it's in a suburb of Michigan in the 1970s, roughly. 1975 is what they were saying. But all of the girls commit suicide. So this is just what they remember of the girls and how they felt during that time. And just kind of, the narrator actually was the little brother from Gone in 60 Seconds. Isn't that funny?
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
I didn't know that either. I'm like, look at these connections that we're finding here.
Keep it in the family. Keep it in the family. I wonder if he's a freaking Coppola, too. It makes me wonder.
No, actually. Okay, because there was that one kid that was he was kind of the smooth talker, the one that was up in Kathleen Turner's business. It was oh yeah, I'm a real whatever he said. But I was like, God, this guy looks so familiar. And I looked him up, and he is the love interest from The Princess Diaries. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen him in anything.
Oh, wow.
And he is actually Robert Schwartzman, which is the younger brother of Jason Schwartzman, that we know is the cousin of Sophia.
So that means that
they did, in
they
fact,
did keep it in
the
family.
family. Yes, and then her dad, Francis Ford Coppola, actually did come onto set and was like helping her out and all of these things. And then she had her brother come in, and he does like film work too, so he helped a lot with the cinematography of things. Yeah, Roman, he came in and helped. And so, like, since it was, like, her first movie, she's just like, oh, look at this family I have. Why not use my resources? Everyone was saying that, like, Sofia had a really intense vision for how she wanted this movie to go. Like, it was her first, like, it was really a side project where she taught herself how to screenwrite specifically for this movie because she loved the book so much.
She did a great job, in my honest opinion.
No, she did, and that's why it has like such a backing behind it, and like it's still relevant 20 years later and all of these things. I mean, like, yeah, a lot of it plays into it because of the book in general, but I mean, like, she brought it to life.
It became a cult classic. Like, you could say that, right? Like, I think there's enough of a following.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. But anyways, man, let's start with the first death, which is of the youngest sister, who is supposed to be 13, and then all the girls are like one age above. I think Lux was 14, and then the one after that was 15, and 16, and 17 was the oldest. So there's 5 of them. And the youngest one, so what Cecilia, the boys were saying, right? Yeah, Cecilia. What the boys were saying was, because like I said, it's from their perspective, they were just like, we don't know why they did it. To this day, we don't know why they committed suicide. You can obviously just pick up on little things here and there with Cecilia. Like, all the girls, they came from like this super religious, kind of like restricted, and they're all kind of stuck in this house, and they're all just like, mysterious is the word that they use, you know, where like no one really knows about them because they're so cut off because of how strict their parents are. And then so it kind of like sexualized the girls for the boys, you know, where it's just like, oh, this mysterious pure person, because they know that they go to church all the time, and it's just like this pure, we don't know anything about them.
I mean, and just being the virgin suicides, like, that would be from like such a teenage boy's perspective to like consider them like not just like, I would call it like the sister suicide or something, you know. And like, of course, being like a little teenage horny boy, like they're thinking like they were virgins, they were all virgins. Like, I don't know if that was intentional for that perspective, but like having you say like, you know, you mentioned like it is from the boy's perspective and it's their memory. Of course they would remember it that way, you know?
Yeah, especially if they were obsessed with these girls, you know, and they're all teenage boys too, you know? And the whole premise is that, like, the girls did it because they were teenage girls. And, like, that was why, because it starts out where Cecilia, she cuts her wrists, and they find her in the bathtub. But she survives, but she already attempted suicide at 13, you know? And then so the school psychologist or whoever, the doctor, was just like, it's probably because she's a teenage girl, or that's what Cecilia said. It's just like, it's because I'm a teenage girl. You obviously don't know what I'm going through.
And that's what that parent tries to joke about in the pool at the end too at the party. Remember, like, oh, I'm a teenage girl, like I'm a teenager and my life's hard, and like jumps in the pool.
And after that, it shows like they're at a dinner party with all of the Lisbon family, and they have a boy over, and all of the older girls are like all up on this guy. They all have it shows that they're like coming into their like sexual realization as you do as a teenager, right? And Cecilia is not having any of it because she's over there talking about like environmental issues. Like she's just like, there's a frog that's going extinct. So you can tell that she's just not into that. Well, obviously I think she's too young anyways, but it's just like she's not into it, but she can tell that the outside world isn't that great. And I think that's why she kind of committed suicide to begin with, is because she was so highly attuned to how the world is, and like it's just kind of crap to her, you know, where it's just like things are dying, things are going bad, nothing's gonna come to light, like there's no light at the end of the tunnel for her.
And I think like also quite literally like because of like the home she's trapped in, like she sees her sisters that are older than her and they're not getting out. The only entertainment you have is what's brought in the house, like what you see in the magazines, what boy comes over, what guest comes over. And one of the final, I shouldn't say final, but I mean, we're revealing it, listeners. One of the like final moments of that where she's trapped in the house is like when she's talking to her mom about the tree frog, and she's kind of like, it's going extinct, and she's kind of dismissive of it. I thought that was like really sad because I was like, that's something she's really interested in, and like I know I've seen the movie a million times, so when I watched it this time, I'm like I know what's gonna happen, and you like you see the signs as the viewer of like all these things that like she feels trapped, she feels like her only escape is death, and it's really sad that after she dies, after her suicide, the boys get a hand of they get the diary, Cecilia's diary, and she's talking about like the elm tree that's like going to get cut down, and even they dismiss it. And it's just really sad that like even like when she finally has her freedom, like the things that aren't important to her are still not important to others, which is like really sad.
It is, and it goes into the point of the tree too. Like she loved that tree that was outside of her house, and it was condemned to get cut down because it was dead technically from like some sort of virus, but it looked alive, and that was the whole point of the movie too. Was that it looked alive. The girls looked alive. They are moving around. They are technically alive. But they are dead on the inside, just like the trees. And you can see throughout the movie at one point that it cuts over that the virus that the original sick tree had was spread to the rest of the trees in the neighborhood. And so I think that just kind of like accounts for all of the girls, that you could tell that they are no longer there. They're there physically, but they're just mentally, they're gone at that point. But that's further down the line because there's a lot that goes into that too. But anyways,
I was gonna say, like, even suicide is like a parallel with the like fungus or virus that the tree has, because like they never got rid of it with Cecilia. Like her dying didn't get rid of this like infection that ended up infiltrating her sisters.
Right, because they never talked about it. And that's such a big mental illness thing too. Or not mental illness, like mental, like that's why there's therapists, there's, it takes such a big mental toll. And like, especially in the 90s and stuff like that, like it wasn't up until recently that like it wasn't as stigmatized to have a therapist, and like mental illnesses and stuff like that in general, like it's ridiculous. It's insane that like it wasn't just talked about. So like they just avoided the topic altogether. Like they went back to school, they never brought it up. Like if anyone said anything, they didn't say anything. The dad's
becoming unhinged the whole time.
Yeah, he's coming unhinged in like a different way, where he's just kind of like loopy, but he seems like more fun than the mom. Like the mom's very strict, but also like she did lose a daughter. Of course she's gonna be strict. She's like, I don't want my kids to die. No one wants their kids to die. She was like that
before that, and I think that was the root issue was like her.
Right, and it escalated. And then so going back to Cecilia's death, or how she actually died, was that her parents were like, okay, let's actually have some fun. Let's have like a supervised party at the house with these boys that you've never met before. None of the girls have met them, and they invite like a Down syndrome guy over, and they're all making fun of the Down syndrome person. And she's like, that's the final straw. And so that's when she decided to end her life. And it goes into the whole like the world is just bad to her from her eyes. So that was the end of it. And then like a whole year passed, and they go back to school like nothing happened and all of this stuff. And then we get introduced to Trip Fontaine, which is Josh Hartnett's character.
What a babe.
And he is very, very interested in Lux, which is Kirsten Dunst's character. And I think they do a lot of visuals of Kirsten Dunst too, where like she was 16 at the time of the filming, so I think it's a little bit odd. But at the same time, I'm like, it is about teen suicide, and it's good to actually have teenagers playing the teens. But I think it's
also about like the teen male gaze specifically, and that's how they would like fantasize, which is also like a really unfortunate thing. Like, why do we always have to focus on that? But well, when we interview Sofia later, like we'll ask her why.
But it works though. You know what I'm saying? Like if it is from the perspective of the guys, then like there's all those visuals of just like a really intense close up of Kirsten Dunst in like a bikini, or like that Hulu, what's it called? The Hawaiian outfit.
Oh, like a hula skirt.
Yeah, the hula. There we go. I was like, why can't I think of this? But yes, I don't know. I'm really into streaming services, so
just not pay sponsored. My bills. I know, not sponsored, guys.
But anyways, it just shows that, and like there's like a scene where like she's just like sucking a popsicle, like all sensual, and not even all sensual. It's just like she's just looking at a popsicle, you know. And then so they're just like, it just shows that they're not really paying attention to what's actually happening. All they're seeing is this element of them because they are mysterious, because they are pure, and all of these things. So Trip Fontaine is like the hot guy of the whole school. Like, he just became hot, everyone wants him, and then like he starts going after Lux, who is supposed to be the hot, or like the purest, I would say, of the Lisbons. Like, she's like the perfect out of the perfect ones, you know what I'm saying? Like, the most perfect. Lux, yes. Like, that's why I'm not sure. I feel like
I'm gonna push back on that. I don't know if she's pure, because she's definitely like the alpha rebel of the sisters. She's the one that's like willing to try things that like she doesn't always like believe what her mom like puts down is like the law.
Right. So I was
do you mean in the sense that like that's how she wants to be perceived so she can get away with things?
No, I just mean like because like all of the other girls are kind of more dormant, and she is the one that is the rebellious one. So like to the male gaze, that would be intriguing.
I see.
Yeah, so like she's supposed to be like, that's why they focus on her so much too, with all of the imagery and stuff. Besides her being like kind of the turning point of the story as well, where she actually starts, at first she doesn't show an interest in Trip. Trip is like, yeah, I want you. And then she's like, no. And then and so he's just like, he's doing more tenfold, you know, where he's just like, I want her even more. And there's the part where Trip comes over to the house. He starts to leave, and they're like reading like a portion of the book or something, like the narrator is talking, and he's just like, oh, Trip was just thinking of like even like the thought of Lux like brushing her teeth turned him on more than actually hooking up with her. And then that kind of goes into like, she's just so pure, I want to be with someone who is just like so mysterious and like all of these things. And like, he can look up porn very easily, you know. I mean, the internet wasn't really a thing, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's elements that were around that he could go to, and then but he liked the thought of Lux just brushing her teeth more. School. And he could get every girl in school, so he did. And then so when he's like, oh, I want to ask this girl to formal or whatever, the parents were like, okay, sounds good. Well, they kind of fought back, but I mean, ultimately they end up going to the formal or whatever together, the dance was, and then all the girls went, and like the dad was there chaperoning. And he was just like, this is the happiest that I've seen them. And you can tell that he was happy. He was happy that his girls were happy. Ultimately, what ends up happening is Trip and Lux end up having sex out on the football field. He leaves Lux there. And there's like an interview of like an older version of himself where he's just like, to this day, I don't know why I left her. I liked her. But it was different. And it was like, I think he took away like that pure aspect. He got to taint her in a way, you know, and then so once she lost that, he no longer desired her. And that, I think this is what happens a lot throughout the whole movie with the boys anyways too. And so that is the turning point of the movie, where when Lux finally shows back up at the house, even the dad is just like, oh my god, are you hurt, are you okay? And the mom's just like, get in here, like, you're just super mad, like a complete opposite. And it's just like, you're never going back out again. And so in turn, she punished all of the girls, like, you're never going back out. She took them out of school. They're all just kind of there and just kind of silently
the records.
Yeah, and like burning their records. And like there was
kiss, Mom.
There was a review of that someone made, and I thought it was so good that there were parts that you could tell that like the sad parts lasted a really long time, and the fast fun parts they were too fast, you know, like the dance was so fun for everyone. That was supposed to be like the highlight of the movie, of like everyone having fun. And then, like, it happened so fast, it was only, like, a 5-minute scene. The rest of the movie was very slow, and it seemed kind of boring, but it wasn't boring. It was showing that, like, those times are actually drawn out, and they are very long in life, you know? Yeah. And it could, even though it's another 5 minutes, it seems, like, very, very long. And even to a teenager, too, like, that's even more intense. What else did she say? It was something very good about how, like, there wasn't really any character development. But like also that kind of goes into they didn't have any character either, and that was another good point because I'm like they were all like even with the dresses for the dance, like they were all ended up looking the same. Either they picked different designs, they all ended up looking the same, and their parents were so strict that they weren't able to develop their character at all. And so like that's a good argument I think for people who don't really necessarily think this movie is that great in terms of like character development and like having like that connection to those, but I'm just like that's the whole point of the movie as well.
Like if the characters grew, they wouldn't kill themselves at the end. Also, like it's like I don't know if that's a fair point, but it's also like a point.
Right, and it goes into well the other thing too is that like
stay stuck.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is that like it just shows like I skipped to the end where like ultimately like the girls end up killing themselves. Like they had a very clear out. Like they asked the boys across the street where they're just like, "Come save us! Like we need to get out." Or like they had a way. They were willing. They came over to pick them up, and the girls were already gone at that point. They all decided to kill themselves. They're just like I think it shows that they were already too damaged. Anyways, like even if they got out of there, they were gonna have all these other issues still. Like they were still gonna have like substance abuse or something farther down the line because that's such a developmental stage of your life, you know. And if you have all of that, I know if you have that like rigged, you're screwed, you know. Like it's so hard, especially with mental health being stigmatized the way it was too. Like there is no hope for him, you know. Even now, like there is more around. It's still like no matter what, you're still gonna have this thing that happened to you that is very traumatizing. That's why I think it's just interesting that they went from the perspective of the boys too, of just like we got out of there and then we to this day we don't know why they did it. You know, it's just like how can anyone, you know, unless you're living in that situation. I was
gonna say like what did you think of the party's theme at the end of asphyxiation? Like what did you think? It made me think a lot of stuff.
I'm not sure. How about we listen to what you say?
Okay. I'm really glad you said that because I had a lot to say.
Okay, hit me with it.
You can just tell by the way I presented that. Like I put the plate out. Like, do you want it?
But also, I have a lot.
Well, because I feel like the true cause of death for the girls was asphyxiation. And I felt like it was very apropos because the mom like just asphyxiated them with what she believed was love and protection. Yeah. When in reality, it just made them crave something outside of their home that they could never get. Right. And like, even though they had their different cause of death, for me as a viewer, I really think the cause of death was asphyxiation of like their mother's love and like societal norms and like pressure. Love is death. And like when you think of it in the sense that like mom was trying to protect them from society and like all the temptations and like the record burning rock and roll and boys, like she never even really did protect them. Like, you know, Lux still went what she went through. Her daughters ended up killing themselves. Like you can't protect them from the danger of yourself even, like if we're gonna get into it, but you can't protect people from everything. Like it's not feasible for humans. That's not how we work.
And especially like because once Lux hooked up with Trip, she was like hooking up. I don't know if she went the whole way every single time, but she was just bringing boys up onto her roof and making out. And like the boys across the street were just like, yeah, that's hot. But you can clearly see that they're like she got affected so intensely by Trip. You know, where it's just like I want to feel something again. Someone will like me again. To fill. Yeah, but I think with the mom and everything, like it just shows too that like young girls or girls in general honestly, but like younger girls too, they're taught that like the sexual desires, especially like during that age of like you're discovering yourself and stuff, like it got demonized super intensely, and that's why they kind of got sheltered too. Like the mom's just like, you're safe here, and Lux is just like, we're suffocating.
But are we?
Yeah, like they aren't. Clearly they aren't, you know. And then even afterwards, after everything went down, and like it showed that like the town kind of went on and they were all kind of just making fun of it, and it kind of played into what Cecilia was saying anyways, that it wasn't any light at the end of the tunnel, you know. It also came into this thing where I'm like, it is trauma, it is all these things. Like let's look at the parents like moved, but like it didn't seem like they talked about it still, you know, like they just left and that's the end of their story for us.
They moved, but they didn't move on.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, who's to say what happened after that? I'm like, that's traumatizing to have all 5 of your teenage daughters kill themselves.
Yeah.
Especially, like, there was one part where the neighbor was talking, was just like, you can't help but to blame the parent after Cecilia dies. And, but, harsh, like, no one... Yeah, but no one says anything to them either. They just keep going about their life. They're just like, not my business. Like, to an extent, like, I get that, obviously, because I'm just like, people are going to live their lives the way they're going to.
Yeah.
But they're...
Water off my back.
But if it's to that point, like, what about the other, the other 4 girls that are there? Are they in trouble now, but they don't care? They're just like, oh, it's the mom's fault. And, like, this thing happened, and they're all focused on that. But there's still 4 other girls there who are in this situation. So are they okay? They don't even bother to check.
No. And, like, even their own kids, like, they really let them go and check, too. I mean, like, Trip Fontaine wouldn't be doing all that unless he was going checked,
Yeah, there's, like, barely any other parents in this movie. There's just, like, the neighbors, like, the nosy neighbors, but there's not really any parents.
Yeah.
So who knows what they're thinking, and, like, if they think, like, you shouldn't be hanging out with these girls or whatever. Also, did you see that Hayden Christensen was in it? It cracked me up. Yeah, he took one of the girls out to the dance.
Oh, it was so cute. Good for him.
I know. It wasn't even his first movie, but I just thought it was super cute. I kind of want to go into some fun facts because it's, like, such a heavy topic. Yeah. Where... One, Josh Hartnett's hair was so bad in that movie. I thought it looked more like Lord Farquaad.
Yes. And I watched this with my husband, and I was actually telling him the whole time, like, does he notice that he has the same hairstyle as most of the girls in the scenes he's in with?
I thought I was watching Kelso from that 70s show. He looked exactly like him, but I found out it was a wig. And I was like, thank God for that,
Thank God for his reputation.
Honestly. And the other part I wanted to cover, which I think it was completely out of place with this movie, but it's just true to life about sometimes shit just happens where when Lux first goes on a date with Trip to the movies, and actually it wasn't even a date, he just happened to be there, but they like went in for like a kiss, and then like someone farted like super loud in the movie theater and just ruined the moment. There's just no salvation in this movie.
It is so like from the teenager's perspective, because that would totally happen.
Yeah, it was just very what am I thinking here, draining, blood-sucking even, the parents were.
Oh, I'm sensing a segue. I like it. It drains the life out of you. Oh, the virgin suicide, draining the life. I should have put that one away. That was a bad one. Can we cut that?
Keep it.
But yes, Bram Stoker's Dracula. So this bad boy, another Coppola classic, because we're going with the Coppola collaborations. You like that alliteration? I'll try again.
Once again, it was okay. You're still at a 3 out of 10 right now.
Anywho, so this bad boy came out in 1992. I really liked it. I realized while we were watching it with my husband, sorry. While I was watching it, I realized I have seen this as a kid. Again, another movie I should not have watched as a kid, because when I got to the scenes with Keanu Reeves is in this, listeners. When it gets to the scene with like Keanu Reeves with like all the babes in the beds and like they're all coming out of the sheets, I was like, oh, I vaguely remember this as a kid, and I remember wondering like, what are they doing?
That scene was beautiful, by the way, when they were like the colors of it and everything, like where they're slowly emerging out of the sheets.
Yeah, I would also like to add, it's funny that stood out to you because Francis Ford Coppola didn't want to use any like CGI in this. There's only like, I forget which part it was, but there was only one part where he used CGI. But the rest
when the guys were
like,
falling off the mountain when they were riding to
it might
the
have been that,
castle
but no, actually he used like camera effects and like just movie magic. Wow. It's so, remember earlier in the podcast where I casually knew the name of Roman Coppola, where you're like, oh yeah, her brother was involved, and I'm like, oh, Roman, and you're like, yeah, well, Roman was involved in this gem. Nice. So apparently, like, and I'll get back to the plot, don't worry, I just need to do this tangent first. So, like, Francis Ford Coppola didn't want to use CGI, and the original team that the production gave him was like, no, we have to. We can't do what you want without CGI. He's like, oh, really? Let me get my son involved. And Roman Coppola is apparently, like, 25 at the time and, like, does it and, like, gets it all done. So, like, everything is done with movie magic. I just wanted to put that out there. So that's really funny. You mentioned that scene.
That's super cool. I was thinking that when I was watching the movie too, because when they had like the close up of Dracula, when like towards the end when he was like in bat form, it was all prosthetics, and I'm just like, you don't really see that nowadays.
No, you don't. Not since the Lord of the Rings trilogy, man. Oh, what a classic.
Charmed.
We'll get into those later. But yeah, so the movie opens up and like during the Ottoman Empire's like heyday, and this is like. There's like all these battles and like you're introduced to Vlad the Impaler, and he's essentially going to be Dracula, but it's like from the Sacred Order of the Dragon, the Dracul, right? Like that was their thing, and they like fight for God. But like his lady, played by Winona Ryder, oh what a babe. Also, for those of you who didn't know, she had a whole career before Stranger Things. Stranger things have happened, okay? No, but anyways, so she thought, like, it was a very Romeo and Juliet kind of setup, I think. Like, because she was told, I'm still at the beginning of the movie. I haven't even gotten 5 minutes in, dude. And so, like, her husband, or her, like, baby boo is out in battle, and like, she thinks that he's dead. So she throws herself out the window into the river. And he comes back, and he's like, oh, no, she's dead. And then the church was like, you know what? Like, because she killed herself, she's damned. And they're like, she's never gonna, like, go to heaven, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what? I've been fighting for heaven, though. You know?
Yeah,
and then
he's... fucked up.
Right? Like, that was so mean. And so he stabbed the cross. And then he's like, when I die, like, I'll rise from my grave, like, with our love. And, like, you will all be damned. Which is
okay, but, like, what is that cross? Like, why is it bleeding all of a sudden? How come he has powers now? Like, what is this cross?
Because the power of his love was so powerful.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's my understanding is, like that's why, like, the end of the movie ends the way it does is because, like, that's the power of their love. Like, it brings him back to his human self, whatever.
Yes, the greatest love story of all time. Forget Titanic and The Notebook.
Yeah, 1897. Bram Stoker was writing love like no one had ever heard before. Yeah, so then it finally gets to what is considered, like, the heart of the story. You go to 1897 London. And you're introduced to little baby Keanu Reeves. And I say baby because this is pre-Matrix, right?
Yeah, it was.
Pre-Bill and Ted, pre-Matrix. So it was like, earlier in his career.
I think it was pre-Bill and Ted's, was it?
No. I could be wrong on that. It's okay if I'm wrong. But, like, he was, like, really giving me, like, Ichabod. Is that his name? Ichabod or Ichabod? You know, the one from Sleepy Hollow? He was giving those vibes.
Yes.
Which is, I love that movie, which is funny because for his character of Jonathan Harker, Johnny Depp was considered for that role. But he was...
I think he would be the exact same.
Really? Right? Like, they said he was too hunky, which I could see, and he had already worked really well with Winona.
Wait, this is before... No, this is right after Edward Scissorhands, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a couple years after Edward Scissorhands, because she was already up and coming.
Winona's probably like, I'm not going to do it, because I think they broke up at that point, and that was like a big breakup.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, because, I wrote it down. Yeah, Edward Scissorhands was 1990.
Yes, that was like the same year as Heathers.
Heathers was 88.
It was 88?
Yeah, and Mermaids was 90. Did you ever see Mermaids with Cher?
No, and that has Christina Ricci in it too, yeah?
Yeah, it does. So we should do, like, a Cher month. Next month be Mamma Mia on my end. That wouldn't be a problem. So, you know, that could explain... I didn't even think about that. You're totally right. Like, that could explain why Johnny, like, was ultimately dropped. And it wasn't because he was a hunk. Because, interestingly enough, Winona brought this movie to Francis Ford Coppola. And she felt awkward about it because she had turned him down for The Godfather 3.
And then Sofia took her spot.
Yeah, then Sofia took her spot, actually. That's really funny. So he's like, thank you. You helped make my daughter famous. But no, she was, like, nervous to bring the movie because she, like, thought that they had like bad blood between them. So she brought it as a way, like, you know, to kind of give a reason to talk and like, hey, let's clear the air on this. So, you know, that would make sense for her to have, like, to be like, no, I don't want Johnny Depp in it. We just broke up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That was a bad breakup, too. Oh, just a quick side note of speaking of people who should have been in things. Sophia went to Scarlett Johansson for Kirsten Dunst's character.
Oh, for love.
But Scarlett Johansson said no because it was kind of risky with making out with a whole bunch of boys and everything like that. And she was young at the time, and like so was Kirsten Dunst. But still, she was just like, oh, not for me. But that's how she ended up in Lost in Translation.
Oh.
Which is her second movie.
Interesting. That was a good choice for her, though.
I agree, yeah.
I don't know. I think, yeah. I don't know if I would have liked her in that. Oh, nice.
No, it would have been, once again, different vibes.
Yeah. I liked the casting in this movie, though. Like, Gary Oldman as Dracula was really good. Apparently, a lot of people didn't like Keanu, though, because his accent was, like, not the best.
Okay, Keanu's kind of been on the fence for me for a long time. Like, he's always going to be my Neo, and he's always going to be my John Wick, you know? But I don't think he's, like, the pinnacle of acting, either.
No, and I think he can admit that. He definitely has his niche, and, like, it works for him.
Yeah, no, he's great. Yeah.
But definitely love seeing his hair turn white from all the schlock. But anyways, so when it goes to 1897 London, Winona Ryder is reintroduced as a new character. So Avi, there's, like, a reincarnation going on, and her name is Mina. And she's a schoolmistress, which made, like, being a teacher sound really hot. Like, ooh, schoolmistress. Like, you go teach, Winona.
She's over there with her ruler smacking people.
You stop that, Johnny. I'm going to tell your daddy. Where is he, by the way? No, I'm kidding. That's kind of the vibe. No, definitely not getting the vibe from that. But Keanu ends up having to go to Transylvania because he's a law clerk, or he's a clerk for a law firm. And, like, it sounds like he just kind of was like a notary public, though. Like, he just had to go to Transylvania and be like, yeah, you want to buy these houses? Oh, okay, yeah, just sign here. Okay, sign here. Like, that's just pretty much what his job was, right? Like, we could all...
Right.
Okay. That's kind of what I was picking up, and that's what...
Which is interesting, because they never went into that any further of, like, why he was, in fact, buying all these houses. Is it just because he could, or what?
So the book goes into that. And so the reason was just so that he can have all these different spots in London to recuperate and be able to pop out whenever he wants to.
Random, but okay. I'm here for it.
Yeah. And so also he could have, like, his little, like, army of vampires, like, anywhere he wanted and be like, I have some up here, I have some over here.
If you have eternal life, you know, might as well just buy some properties.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you want to, like, spend a night in this part of London, you know, like, wake up in another part, that's on you. And I think that was a part of his decision-making, too. But, yeah, so Keanu gets to Transylvania, and it's, like, all the problems. Like, it's dark, it's stormy. The carriage lets him out in the middle of nowhere. He's like, no one's here. And they're like, doesn't matter. And, like...
No one's here.
Yeah, like, quite literally. It's, like, stormy AF. And, like, the old lady in the carriage was, like, giving him a rosary. And I wrote down, like, for the dead travel fast. And I was like, oh, what does she know?
I know, how cryptic.
I know, like for the dead travel, you want me to travel fast, or did they travel fast? What are you trying to say, lady?
I was thinking of, you know, that, like, transporter guy that's supposed to take you across the River of Souls when you die?
Oh, yeah.
And you have, like, that coin. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that's what I would thought of immediately.
A little token. That's a really good point. Like, kind of, a little talisman of protection. And it did offer him protection that one time before the mirror broke, right? Like, when he's shaving his face.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I guess I could get into that. So Keanu gets into the creepy castle of the soon-to-be found out of Dracula. But he never really finds that out till later. Oops. But he gets there and he's like, yeah, you could buy this. Like, totally, these 10 houses around London. Like, that's so you. And then, like, he just, like, keeps finding reasons to keep him there. Because he eventually sees the picture of his wifey, or his girlfriend, I should say. And he's like, oh, who's she? Because, like, it's obviously a doppelganger for his hottie McBody. What was her? I don't even know. Elisabetta was her name in the Ottoman Empire era. So, you know, he's attracted and he's like, I must keep this man around so I could get my lady bits. And I don't, like, this, so I will say, like, as Francis Ford Coppola is, like, known for being, like, cinematography, like, beautiful, costume work beautiful, and everything was.
I want to talk about his hair when he's like the old version, like Gary Oldman, when he's like the old version of Dracula. Oh
he
my
looks
god,
like that
his
one
hair.
character from Little Nicky.
Yeah, he has like the 30 head. It was so funny.
He shaved his hairline for that, actually.
Really? That's
Yeah, they had him
interesting.
shave the hairline. That's also like they got 3 Academy Awards for this, and one of them was in costume and one was in makeup as well, which totally makes sense because it was phenomenal.
It does. It was,
But
yeah.
have you seen Little Nicky?
A long time ago, I don't remember it, but yes.
They had that one character in Hell that looked like he had boobs on his head, and then they made him have boobs on his head, and he kind of looked like that. And I think they were kind of alluding to this movie.
That's funny. Oh, speaking of costumes, my favorite was when the friend was hypnotized by the werewolf thing, and then she was
Lucy?
like, yeah, she was going through the hedge maze, and then she had that long flowy dress. Oh, it was so well done.
Well, I always knew she would kind of be a catalyst in the story because, like, you know, this is from a book, and names of characters are super important. And hers being Lucy, I instantly was like, oh, that's a demonic reference, like Lucifer. And, like, I knew, yeah, that's the Catholic raising in me. It would come in handy. You know, I knew she would be, especially with having the red hair, and always just being like the saucier of the two and like being much more forward and like
interesting. Did not pick up on that.
Oh yeah. And then like later it says like, you know, she was planted, like he always wanted to use her to get oh gosh, what's her Winona Ryder's character, and like she was just like a stepping stone to get to her. Which I thought was like, oh, I see it. And I also I felt bad for Renfield, the one who had Keanu Reeves' job before, who went to Transylvania and was in the insane asylum. Poor guy.
Yeah, and he was like, Master.
Yeah,
Master.
like that was a whole
Master
scary thing. Master of puppets. Yeah, that was really scary. Can we not? I was just like thinking, like, is that really what insane asylums were like? Like, that was honestly the scariest part.
Yeah, I liked how they had like cages on their head, like the guards.
Yeah, it reminded me of A Clockwork Orange for some reason.
Ew, gross! I hate that movie.
Yeah, we'll do that another weekend.
No.
But anyways, so also the doctor was definitely on morphine, right? Like that was like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure, like, I picked up on that, right?
You did, yes. He had a tourniquet, so.
Seward was his name, Dr. Seward. Also, I knew that Van Helsing was going to be in there somewhere. Like, of course, it's Bram Stoker.
Yes.
I didn't realize who it
Hopkins
was going to
so
be.
good.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins was amazing.
He was definitely, like, the comic relief of the movie, I thought. He has, like, such good lines.
Ja.
Yeah.
The commitment to ja. Oh yeah, and also I thought it was interesting that his name was Abraham, because Abraham is considered like a religious name, so I didn't know if that was like to contrast the Lucy, or if I'm also reading too much into it.
Oh, the husband? I was like, who the hell is Abraham?
No, Abraham Van Helsing.
Oh, what was the husband's name? Which isn't that the guy that has that one gift too, where his eyes are blinking a whole bunch, and he's like, "Excuse me."
Which husband?
The fiance of Lucy.
Oh, the guy who played the Princess Bride.
Oh, is that who that is? I'm like, he looks so familiar.
Yeah.
Is he not the one that has that meme of him with it where he's blinking super intensely?
Yeah, that is him, I think.
That's what I was thinking the whole time I was watching.
Or someone who looks like him. Like, there's like you know, people that are the same font.
No, I don't think so.
You never heard of that meme? Okay, listeners out there, make sure you Google this. No, but you too. It's like when people look the same, like Zooey Deschanel and Katy Perry. They're like people that are the same font. Like they look the same, but they're different. But they're.
Yeah, I picked up on the reference. I just never heard of it before.
Okay, we'll cut that. Anyways,
because we're all snowflakes.
Hey, mine is yellow.
You're a yellow snowflake?
Yeah.
That's concerning for everyone.
Don't eat me.
Gross.
But you know what? Also, sorry, I'm going to go back again to the movie because I guess the podcast is about the movie. But I thought it was interesting that when Keanu escaped, the same way that the Elizabetta, I don't remember how they said it, how she killed herself was like jumping out to the river. Like, how come she died and he survived?
Did he jump out the window? I don't think he did.
Yeah, remember he like jumped out and then he fell.
Keanu.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was seeing was that like it looked like he went onto a side of the roof that kind of like slid a long way down.
And then he fell.
And then he fell, and then she just
Okay.
straight up went from the highest point because she was intending for death. So,
That's a good point.
but also they reference this cliff, or yeah, the cliff a lot, and there it doesn't look like there's any sort of way down that isn't super far or high up, you know. So I don't know about that one.
It could be a Matrix thing. Like he
It's
could have
better
gone-
for the movie. Just leave it alone. Okay.
Yeah. We'll let you have this one, Francis Ford Coppola. Also, I literally wrote to myself, like, why is Dracula ugly sometimes? Like,
Yeah. I don't get why he was a werewolf either.
okay, so I had to do some research into this. And also, later, some of the things they said. So he can control all beasts, which includes bats, rats, and wolves. So sometimes he can, like, become an amalgamation of them.
Okay.
And then he's only ugly during daytime, because he can't be outside. He kind of, like, creates illusions, are my understanding. Like, it's not really
What?
him.
Okay, so he's like projecting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because, like,
I
he
can see
always
that.
looks hella young, but he also looks younger after he eats.
I thought the dirt was making him look young, like it was like preserving.
I think
him.
that's also part of it, is because, like, every day you have to, like, go sleepies and, like, get better. But that's how that works. I really like this. You go sleepies and you get better.
Yeah.
That's our professional recommendation from our
Get some
podcast.
sleepies up in there, some sleepies.
Just get some sleeps. You'll look better, Gary Oldman. You'll be Gary Youngman.
Stupid.
That's how it works. He had to change his name after 30. I thought yeah, you didn't know that? That's a part of that was in the trivia.
I didn't know that.
I thought it was really cool how, like, Francis, can we call him Frank? Do you think? No, I'll call him Francis Ford Coppola again.
What? When is Francis ever shortened down to Frank?
When isn't it?
No. What do you? No. When?
Is Frank
I don't
only
know.
used for Franklin?
I don't know. I thought Frank was just Frank. Like there is no,
No,
longer
Frank
version
is
of
short.
Frank.
Okay, we're gonna. Frank is short for either Franklin or Francis. But when Francis Ford Coppola, since my nicknames are not accepted here, I really like how he had the wolf eating Lucy, like, while Mina is getting married. I just liked that imagery of, like, just, like, someone dying and, like, someone's, like, life with someone else starting. But, like, I actually...
Do you get it?
Yeah. But, like, also, hear me out. Like, I also see it as another form of death because, like, apparently, like, one of the Greek beliefs was that when a woman gets married, she's dying because her life free as a woman, like, as a single woman, is over. So, like, marriage and death are equated with each other because, like, once you're married, you have to listen to your man and do what he says, and you can't do all the things you used to. So, like...
She's also dead on the inside, I would argue.
Yeah, good point. I mean, is that the theme with with this week? It's not actually Coppola's, it's just being dead inside.
It's oppressed women is what it is.
Oh, I see it. Like, always having to be on the path of what men desire for them.
That's exactly what happened with Winona Ryder's character, both like the old version and like the new reincarnated version.
Yeah.
You know, where they're just like she's there to please the guy.
Her betrothed. Like, it's always about them and what they want. Yeah, no, that's a really... Coppola's. What are you trying to tell us, like, with your movie choices? I think it was sad, too, when she asked Jonathan, like, would you kill me, too? Like, once he, like, staked someone, she's like, would you do that to me?
Yeah, I couldn't tell if that was actually condescending or if she was like truly hurt by it. You know,
Yeah.
she's just like, if
Are you
this
trying to
guy's
stay
a
alive?
monster to you, you know, like, is this guy truly a monster to you? Does that make me a monster? Are you going to do the exact same thing to me? Like, that makes me think that, like, she loves him still. You know what I'm saying? And, like, that little part of, like, the Wilhelmina is still in there, you know?
Humanity.
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of like a very fine line for me of whose team she was on because she was hypnotized, I would say, by Dracula, right?
Yeah.
But, like, was she? Because, like, what if there are star-crossed lovers? What if you have that reincarnation at some point, you
Well,
know?
because she, at one point in the movie, she did say, too, like, I remember things that happened with her, with Elizabeth or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So, at that point, I would be on Team Dracula, you know? Like, it is a good love story.
Like, I see you, Vlad. Like, you just wanted your lover back. Who wouldn't want that?
He did it wrong, but sometimes you
Yeah.
just have to make a deal with the devil, literally, to like get shit done. I was about to go into like Star Wars and how
Oh.
freaking Darth Vader came about because he wanted to save Padme because he kept having visions
Oh my gosh,
of
I said that during the movie for some reason. I was like saying it's giving like really Vader and Padme vibes.
It was. It really was. Where he's like, no, I just want to save you, because like he was having that like back and forth. Dracula was having that back and forth about how he's like, oh, I want to be with you, but I can't turn you into what I am because I know
Yeah,
it's not
because I
good.
love you too much. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like ultimately like a good love story, you know, like in a dark way. It was
Yeah.
still, it was all in the name of love, you know. But does that really justify anything?
No, I don't know. I was also gonna say like that was great acting for Juanana because she apparently like her and Gary Oldman were like on the outs for like most of the filming. Like apparently during rehearsal they were really chill and then all of a sudden she just like didn't like working with him. And Homegirl like had
Probably.
to suck on his chest there.
Yeah. Ugh.
That's what I'm saying
Disgusting.
is like great acting on her part because I had no idea.
Well, sometimes you just have to do that job too. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, she
Get that good
auditioned.
monies. Well, I thought if she literally brought the script over to Francis Ford
Yeah.
Coppola, it was like her idea. You know?
Yeah, apparently he like just like there was like just some sketchy practices behind it. Like so like to turn on Lucy, like Gary Oldman would like whisper things to the character, like to the actress, and like apparently it was like super dirty and like it worked. But like they had like practices like that where they would be like, "Oh, you got to piss this person off. Go tell them they're a slut. Like go tell them this at their face. Like kind of things like that that you know you
Isn't
don't
that
want
just
anymore."
method acting?
Yeah, but not everybody consented to that kind of thing. But I guess that's all I really had to say about the movie, other than one more important thing that another person considered for Van Helsing was Liam Neeson. Could you imagine?
Yes. Okay, I think Gary Oldman was obviously the. Oh, you said Van Helsing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
As
yeah.
never mind. No, not as Van Helsing. As
I could see
Dracula,
it.
maybe.
Yeah. Oh, as Dracula, I could see that too.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, that was all I really had to say. I really liked it. Good movie. 10 out of 10 would bang again. Bite again, should I say?
Bite is the correct one here.
Bite again. Uh, but next, I think like this week is a good transition because after this, we're gonna start going into like horror for Halloween, right?
Yes, I'm so excited. And so
Ah,
next week is the ever popular foreign film Train to Busan and Dead Silence with the ventriloquist dolls, which I hate.
and Ryan Quanten, like really the only thing we're watching for.
I can't. The dolls scare me. I'm not excited for that one.
It's gonna be okay.
We do one horror here.
Just remember that behind every doll is a person operating it.
That doesn't make me feel
Maybe.
better. I gotta be
Maybe.
honest.
Could be.
Get out of here. I get it. Okay, I don't want to. I don't want the visuals.
Well, luckily for our listeners, they won't get the visuals. So until next time.
Very true. Very true. Until next time, I guess we'll catch you on the flippity flip.
Yeah.
All right.
Peace flip
See
out.
ya. You can listen to new episodes of Okay But This Movie every Monday at 8 a.m. on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Anchor.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter so you can stay updated. Later,
Later,
Gators.
Gators.